welcome to Glisten's Culinary Delights. I wanted to do this video 1 week before Easter because I wanted to give you an amazing Easter dinner that you can make for your family that's relatively inexpensive but super delicious. So today we're going to use this great slab of meat. I've got a tri-tip here, 2 tri-tips actually, and I'm going to show you how to smoke it and put an Easter dinner together with this lovely tri-tip in a very inexpensive way, so stay tuned. Okay, so here is my tri-tip. As you can see, a tri-tip is shaped kind of triangular, and so this is what it looks like when you get it from the store. Let's see from the front, and it's relatively inexpensive. The 2 that I just showed you, I got at Costco, and it was $27. And so with just the one, it comes out to $13 for the main dish. Otherwise, you do the 2, and it's $27 for a main dish, which is really inexpensive when you think about how much it costs to get a delicious steak at a steakhouse or something like that. So I'm going to show you what we need to do with this tri-tip first. So first, we're going to talk about binders. Now, binders is something that you would put on your meat to get the seasonings to stick. So there are several different binders that you can use, and I've used all of these, and they're all delicious. Just depends on what you're looking for at the moment. So first I'm going to mention is olive oil, and olive oil is super easy to put on. It doesn't really add any extra flavor to your meat, and it's good, and it helps the seasonings stick. The next is mustard, which is my usual go-to is mustard. And you have the 2 types. So I have regular just yellow mustard, or you can use Dijon mustard as well. Dijon has a little bit of a different flavor, but it is also really delicious. And then the last thing that I use is like my trusty Tapatio, and you can see I use Tapatio a lot. And Tapatio adds a little bit of spice to it. It is a little bit spicy, so if you are not a big fan of spicy foods, then I don't suggest this, but it is like really delicious. For today, I'm going to use the yellow mustard on our tri-tip. Alright, so let's get going with the yellow mustard. First thing I'm going to do is shake it, because you know how it is when you squeeze the yellow mustard out and you just get the liquid. Your hands are going to get kind of messy. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. So first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle that yellow mustard. Sorry. I'm going to sprinkle that yellow mustard all over. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of spread it out all around the meat. I'm going to push down a little hard if you'd like, because that kind of gets it into the meat fibers. So once you have it on your meat and it's completely covered on the one side, because we're going to flip this and do it on the same side, on the other side too. I'm going to put my seasoning mix. And in my seasoning mix, I have salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and then for a little bit of a kick, I put some Creole powder in there too. So this is just the standard recipe of the seasonings that I usually use on my beef in a smoker. So you're going to season it liberally, and I know you're going to think that's a lot. It really is not, and if you don't put a lot, then you will have a bland tasting tri-tip. I'm going to kind of pat it in there. Like I said, your hands are going to get a little messy, but it's important. And then I'm going to turn it over. And we are going to do the same thing on this side. Squeeze the mustard. Alright, so I'm just going to season this side as well. Okay, so we have our tri-tip seasoned, and I am going to put this in my smoker. Now, if you don't have a smoker, which is totally fine, a lot of people don't have a smoker. So if you don't have one, you can use the oven to cook it. But the whole thing with the smoker is low and slow, and that's how you do it, and that's what makes the meat tender. So if you are going to do this in your oven, put it at 225, which is the same temperature I'm going to do in the smoker, and then we're going to do a reverse sear afterwards and grill it on a grill. So if you're going to do this inside, put it in your oven, and then you can either use it on your grill if you have one, or you can just use like a cast iron skillet or just a non-stick skillet and brown it that way. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to put a temperature thermometer in our meat. All right, let's go stick this on our smoker. Okay, so this is going to be for our side of our tri-tip. It's not quite done yet in the smoker, but I'm going to get this ready because once it's done, I'm going to stick this on the grill as well. So I have some asparagus spears here that I just put in this tin. It's going to go on the grill, so it's easy to dispose of and super quick. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to season these, and I'm going to do just simple salt and pepper. Okay, so now that I have the salt and pepper on there, I'm just going to I stirred it up and just add some more if you feel like you need more. Okay, then I have a stick of butter. You're not going to use this whole stick of butter, but I'm going to open it up. Probably going to be using about half of this. So I'm just going to cut it into small little slices, like this. And I'm just going to lay it on top of my asparagus. So there's nothing worse than a overcooked asparagus. So I cook it in this, I leave it on the grill for a little while, and then I put it directly on the grill so I can get a little bit of crisp to it and take it off. It's very fast, very simple, and so good. Alright guys, so I am going to, along with our tri-tip, I'm going to make a few different side items to put on top of the tri-tip just to flavor it or make it look a little bit nicer. So the first thing I'm going to make is a steak sauce. Now a few years ago we went to a steakhouse and they made like table-side steak sauce with like a little hot stone, and it was super delicious and I loved it and I wanted to make it myself. So this is a recipe adjusted from that steak sauce at the steakhouse. So this we're doing all this while our tri-tip is cooking. So the thermometer that I use for our tri-tip is an iWeber grill, and it has an app, and so it's really nice because you can put in the temperature of your meat that you want, and then you can use the app, which I have it on my iPad here, and it tells me what the temperature is without having to keep going out there to check it. So right now the meat is at 107 and I want to get it to 135. So it's almost there. When it's about a 120, 125, I'm gonna go outside and turn on my grill just to heat it up so it's quick to do the reverse sear. But we're just gonna rush on these two sauces real quick. So I have in my pan, I have 2 shallots that I'm going to brown. I'm just using some olive oil along with the shallots. Now for this recipe, you're not going to use the whole 2 shallots. I'm just cooking these 2 shallots because we're also going to make a compound butter for the tri-tip. And so I'm going to show you how to do that too, and we're going to put some shallots in that one as well. Okay, our shallots are browned. Okay, so now that our shallot is brown, I'm going to take all but about 2 teaspoons of the shallot out of this pan. I'm going to put my garlic. I have 2 teaspoons of garlic, and I'm just going to swish that around. For a second, you don't want to burn it, so you don't want to cook it a lot. And then you're just going to add your favorite steak sauce. So here I have some A1. I'm going to remove that real quick so I can put in all the rest of the ingredients. So you're going to use about 8 ounces of your favorite steak sauce. So like I said, I'm using A1. So I'm just going to put it in the same pan. And then I have some rosemary, just 2 sprigs of rosemary that I just got straight from my herb garden. And then a couple of skins of lemon. And then last but not least, I have this chili crunch that I'm going to put, and I'm just going to do a spoonful. You can adjust this to however you like. If you like it a little bit spicy, then put a little extra. I'm just going to put a spoonful though. And then you can also taste it and see if you want to add more. Now that I have all those in, I'm just going to simmer my mixture. Mix it all together. I'm going to incorporate all those flavors. So I just let that simmer a little bit just so that everything gets incorporated. Now I'm just going to pour it into a dish. Leave all those ingredients in. Don't take out the peels or the rosemary just yet. There you have it, a nice bowl of steak sauce. Now, if you want to just keep this at room temperature until your tri-tip is done, you can, or you can store it in the fridge, or you can just warm it up in the microwave if you want it warm for your steak, which is what I tend to do. So I'm just gonna set this aside and we'll get to our compound butter. So I just got an alert that this is almost done. The temperature is at 120 right now. So I'm going to start heating up my grill. All right, everyone, our temperature for our meat is at 121. We want it to be at 130. So I've turned my grill on. That's heating up, so that way it's nice and hot so I can do a reverse sear on it. And we're doing our last step. So this is a compound butter, and it's so simple. You can make it anytime and store it in your fridge. I usually have like a small brick of it in my fridge to put on meat or chicken or anything. You can, it's delicious. So it's just a simple recipe. I have a stick of butter, and then I have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper in my bowl. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mash my butter. Now you want your butter to be room temperature because it's going to be easier to mash it. It's going to be near impossible if it's not. So room temperature butter. Once you got it mashed up, you're going to want to mix in that salt and pepper to get it incorporated throughout. I'm going to do a teaspoon of a few different things. So in this, I have a teaspoon of parsley, a teaspoon of thyme. So that's going to go in first. Next, I have a teaspoon of garlic, and we're going to add those shallots that we cooked earlier. Okay, let's stir that up. Last but not least, you're just going to put a tiny little squeeze of lemon juice. All right, that looks delicious. All right, so now here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put out some plastic wrap onto my counter, and then I'm going to scoop out my butter mixture onto the plastic wrap. Okay, now we're going to make a small log with this, and then we're going to put it in the fridge just so that it hardens up. And then we can, when we're ready to use it and we want to put it on our meat, just slice a little piece of it off of your log. So how to do that is I'm just going to cover it with plastic wrap. And here's an easy trick. I just let it spin with my plastic wrap. See? And then you've got kind of a ball. You can elongate it a little bit. You can make it pretty much in any shape you want. I just kind of want it to be small little circles when I put it on my meat. So I'm just going to roll it a little bit. There we go. All right, so I'm going to put this in the fridge, like I said, and let it chill. And then when we're ready to cut our tri-tip, we'll just cut little circles off of this and just put it on our tri-tip, and it's gonna be amazing. All right, guys, there we have it. It's beeping, it's at temp, it's been reverse seared, and it's ready to go. Now what you're going to do, you're going to be super tempted to cut into this baby and eat that meat. You're going to be super tempted to cut into this, but you need to wait. You have to let it rest. So I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes and let it rest, and then I'll show you how to cut this up, and we'll give it a try. Hey guys, so our tri-tip has been resting for 15 minutes and it is ready to cut. Now, one thing I will say about tri-tip is when you cut any kind of meat, beef, you want to cut it against the grain. But tri-tip is a little funny. It has two different ways to cut it just because the grain goes two different ways on the different parts of the tri-tip. So I'm going to show you an overhead shot of where you need to cut it, so that way you can cut it perfectly. All right, so here's the tri-tip, and there's two ways that you need to cut it. So first I'm gonna cut this boot part off, this top big chunk off. We're gonna cut it that way, down from this triangle, down over to here, this point to here. And then for this piece, I'm just going to cut it straight across just like this, okay? And for this piece, I'm gonna cut it across this way. So let's cut that boot off first. And this is gonna tell us how we did with the meat too, if it's at temp or if it's terrible. So lift it up. That is beautiful. So you can see on the end of the meat, you've got that smoke ring. That's from smoking it. If you didn't smoke it in the oven, if you didn't smoke it and you just cooked it in the oven, you won't have that smoke ring, but it'll still be super delicious. Just not as good because smoked meat's super good. You'll know that you rested it long enough because if you see, I don't have juices running down and on my board coming into this little drainage thing. So that's how I know I did a good job with my rest and it's ready for me to cut. So I'm just going to cut slices. It's so juicy. Just as I cut it, like these slices are divine. So like I said, I'm just cutting it sideways like this for this part of the meat. You can cut it whatever thickness you'd like. Super thin. This came out perfect. All right, so now I have that cut. Now I'm not going to cut it this way, like I said, I'm going to cut it this way. So I'm going to turn it over like this so it's easier for me to cut. Now, like I said, you can make it to the temperature that you want it. I like it medium rare, and so that's how I cook it. You can cook it longer if you like it more well done. So we're going to plate up some of this with our asparagus, and we're going to try it out. You remember in the beginning I told you that this was a super cheap way to do your Easter dinner. It looks like a $50 to $100 dish, but I have down here the price of everything that I used. So my tri-tip, I only used one from that package, so it was $13. Asparagus was $1.99. My butter, I only used 2 sticks of butter, so that was $1.74. The steak sauce, the A1 I had, was $5.29. It was 60 cents for the shallots and 69 cents for the lemon. So the rest of the ingredients, the herbs and the spices and everything that I had already in my pantry, so I didn't need to buy that stuff. So it might be a little bit more for you if you do need to buy those things. But total for me for this whole meal, and this is gonna feed me, my husband, and anybody else who wants to come join us at our dinner table, it's cost $23.31. So super cheap, and it looks amazing, and we are gonna taste it right now so we can see if it's good. So I'm gonna try that steak first, and I have that melted compound butter, so I'm gonna put some on each piece. And then I'm gonna try the meat, and I have it dipped. There's a little bit of that steak seasoning as well on our plate. It just melts in your mouth. The seasonings on the outside, and then also in that butter. Try a piece over here with more butter on it. Taste the fresh herbs. Taste the smoke from the smoker. Try the asparagus. The asparagus is perfect. One thing that's a pet peeve of mine is that when you get like mushy asparagus, because it's not good. But this still has a crisp. And it's got a little bit of a char from the grill. All in all, this is a perfect dish. And for $23 to feed your whole family, I've had one of these tri-tips before, and I fed 5 or 6 people with one tri-tip. So it's perfect for your family. You've got a big family, you've got a small family, have leftovers. And it's $23. You can't beat that. So I'd love for you to make this recipe. You want the recipe for all the different components that is going to be down in the description. Please like and subscribe. You can also check that notification bell to get any notifications of our future videos. And I'm glad that you guys joined me today. Thanks for watching.